Justice League, ladies and gentlemen. Justice League, Justice League, Justice League. Zack Snyder. I love that dude. I'll tell you why in a minute. We're going to look at a breakdown of the Justice League trailer, but what we're going to do, we're going to do this in parts. Okay, so we're going to look at the Lois and Clark part of the trailer. That was the very beginning of the trailer because, man, yo, we about to go in deep. You cannot save the world alone, baby. That's right. Justice League coming November 2017. That's right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. So, the trailer starts on the Kent farm. For those of you who didn't know, that's the Kent farm. This is the Kent farm from BVS. But it's a big shout out also to Superman 1978. Salute! Yeah, Zack Snyder does that all the time. He salutes to past issues. He goes into the video games. He goes into the cartoons. He goes into the movies. Yeah, he shouts out to Batman. He shouts out to Superman. He shouts out to Wonder Woman. Man, that dude, he be just bringing things from past into the present. And we about to get into it. So here we go. So yeah, this is a snippet or a shot of Superman 1978 on the Kent farm you're looking at here. It's sunrise, and this is sunset. You're going to hear the theme sunrise and sunset a lot at the Kent farm, and this is in BVS, okay? And interestingly enough, if you look very carefully at the beginning of the trailer, you will realize that Lois Lane is actually standing in what we call the porch area outside. She comes outside of the house on the porch area of the Kent farm. So she is somewhere with Clark's, shall I say, stepmother or mother, Martha Kent. Okay, so she's on the Kent farm. Now, how do I know this? Okay, so let's go to the beginning here. And when we look here, we see that Lois is stepping out. There is a sunrise. Remember? Now, the Kent farm from BBS, we saw it the last time we saw the Kent farm. It was at sunset. This is a sunset here, okay? And this here is at sunrise. The dawning. You know, the dawn of the Justice League? You know, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice? All right. Anyway, so yeah, this is sunrise right here, okay? Now, just check out the trees. See, notice this tree has no leaves or nothing. And when Clark died, the trees were bare. It was like fall or something. See, they had no leaves depicting death. Okay, and we pick up from there and we see they have no leaves as well. Not only the tree here, but also these plants here have no leaves. Isn't that interesting? Yet, we got all these green areas of corn. So it could be that we're looking at springtime. So things are now catching themselves from winter. Because you see a few little leaves here. Okay, whereas here, this may have been also around springtime. So maybe this is immediately after Superman's death we're looking at. So this is actually a continuity from BVS, just like how we had a continuity from Man of Steel, where we had the cataclysmic event, and then we picked up with Batman watching that view. Here, this seems to be a continuity from Batman v Superman, where Lois Lane is still by the Kent's home with Martha Kent, and she's looking out into the sunrise. Now, this obviously is a dream, as we later learn. But it's interesting. This may have been a recent event, which is why there's some continuity there. Or she may be actually at the Kent home when she wakes up. So there's all these different variables going on there. All right. So I thought I'd point that out. And again, sunrise and sunset is going to be, you're going to see this theme over and over again in this portion of the trailer when we compare it to Superman 1978, which Superman 1978 started at the Kent farm, like I said before, and with sunrise there, you can see the sun coming over the sky there. It's sunrise, okay? So we see sunrise, and we see Lois Lane. She steps out onto the pavilion, the balcony area, now how I can tell that is because you see the road here, there's the balcony here, and then the tree is slightly to the left of this balcony. And if you look here, you will notice that the tree is slightly to the left of the balcony. Lois would have been somewhere here, and here's the roadside right here. So that's how we know. There's no road anywhere else in the house. So I know this is the Kent farm she's on, and she's looking out at the fields of corn here. And later on, as she looks out to the fields of corn, she sees Clark Kent. Okay. Now let me tell you how closely this is to Superman 1978. Martha Kent, instead of Lois Lane, is looking out from her home, and as she looks out, she sees Clark in the distance standing as the sun is rising. The parallels are ridiculous. Okay, I'll give you a zoom in so you can see. And he's staring at the rising sun or something. He's staring out into the distance. So this is literally ripped from Superman 1978. And just so you can see that there's Kent out there. See, she's staring here, and you have a nice, better zoom in here. And there's Clark staring off. The sun is somewhere here, and he's staring off into the distance. Right? He's just kind of staring out. Now, in that movie, Superman 1978, Clark is about to leave home. Okay. He's about to leave home. But anyway, let's just get to the next point. So here is Lois Lane. She's staring. Now we get a snapshot of Lois staring at Clark. So we know it's Lois now. She's staring at Clark. The door is open. She's out on the balcony area. She's out in the porch area. All right. And guess what? The same thing with Martha Kent. But instead, she's inside staring through a window. So Lois, she comes past the door. She opens past the door, and she comes outside staring at Clark. Whereas here, Martha, she's staring from the window. Now, that's very important to remember. All of these things are important to remember, okay? And in the distance, what is Lois staring at? Clark Kent. There he is. And he's looking at the ears of corn, and he's feeling them, okay? He's feeling the ears of corn. All right? You can see the sunrise in the distance. All right? Now, in Superman 1978, there is Clark in the distance, and he's staring off in the distance. And these are ears of corn as well. The difference is these ears of corn seem to be riper than these ears of corn. These are green, which means it's springtime, whereas here, and springtime denotes life coming back to life, whereas here, this looks like after the harvest. They're finished harvesting the corn, so it's lower and it's golden. So it's a different period in time. Think about what I'm saying. With Clark, his time on the Kent farm is over. In 1978, he's about to move on. He's about to leave the farm. Whereas here, springtime, this denotes revival or life. And which explains why the trees look this color, why they have no leaves and everything. It's because they're about to spring back. And this is the hint here that they're springing back. And so, whereas Clark is about to leave the Kent farm here, Clark has already left the Kent farm here, and he's about to return. That's the signal. It's a dream, but nonetheless, this is the subliminal messages being sent. We're going to go on into more detail. Like I said, I go deep into this stuff. Deep. All right. So, okay. So the next shot we get is Clark Kent. We're coming up from the ears of corn, and we're panning upwards to Clark's face, and you can see Lois in the background. All right. So again, denoting birth, rebirth, resurrection, rising. And Clark has a slight smile on his face. Now, it's a little bit different, but the shot is kind of similar as well. In the terms of the shot with Clark and Martha Kent in Batman and in Superman 1978, the shot actually pans downwards. It pans downwards, denoting sadness, denoting loss that's about to occur. Okay, Clark is about to leave the Kent farm. He's about to leave Martha, who's alone now. Pa Kent, Jonathan Kent is dead. And he's about to leave her, and he's sad. And you can see his face also. His facial expression is very sad because he knows he has to leave. But because his time has come to leave the farm and to move off into the world and fulfill his purpose. So it's a little bit different. And you can see again the ears of corn are golden, denoting that I don't even know if this is corn. I guess it is corn. That it's been harvested and the corn has been taken. So the time is up for him at the Kent farm. Now, another very interesting thing that you may not have grasped is that this shirt here denotes Clark Kent. And this came from Superman 1978. It was a very ubiquitous shirt in the time. Actually, if you watch Superman, I don't know if it was Superman, the second issue of Superman, where Clark comes into a store and he beats up a guy. I think it actually was the first Superman. That guy was also wearing a shirt like this. But what's interesting is how Zack Snyder very painstakingly took this shirt and put it on Clark Kent. You later see the same shirt on Barry Allen. Okay, this is a quote, and it's dressed around him. And again, this is a shot back to Superman 1978, where Clark Kent is wearing a similar pattern coat. Now, what's interesting is Clark has clothes under his coat here. But here in Superman 1978, he has nothing underneath the coat. It's just the coat covering him like a shirt, and that's it. And pay attention to this because this is, again, a lot of details. Zack Snyder is very detailed. He's actually sending a picture or a message. What does this mean? Well, this means that Clark is being reborn here, whereas Clark here, he's leaving. He's dressed to go. Whereas here, he's born again or reborn. This is what this denotes. So he's a new man underneath this old coat. So this old coat, he's Superman, he's Clark, but he's a new man underneath it. So that's why they painstakingly just had him wearing the coat, almost as a shirt. Well, it's a shirt actually. It's a shirt in this case, and it's a coat here. Okay. So I just thought that was very interesting again. So you have the panning upwards to show resurrection, rebirth, springtime, whereas you have the panning downwards to denote loss, leaving, some grief. The corn is full here in Superman 1978, whereas the corn is now springing up in Justice League, where Superman is actually going to return. Okay, definitely he's going to return, right? All right, so let's get into. So they have a conversation now. The interesting thing is, Superman, Lois Lane leaves where she is and comes to meet Superman, just as how Martha Kent leaves where she is and she comes to meet Clark. Notice she's positioned behind Clark, and Clark has to turn, just as Clark does here, and talks to her. Okay, so I just thought, you just got to get the meaty stuff out of the way so you guys would enjoy this little breakdown here. Here's some more stuff for you guys. So Clark here, he's talking to Lois, and he says something which is a little bit different. Now, first, let's just go to Superman 1978. What Superman 1978 says to Martha Kent is, I have to leave. And this is because he found the kryptonite crystal, and that crystal would lead him to the solace of the solace of fortitude. I don't know if I'm saying this right. I don't know why. Guys, remember the name of the thing? Just all of a sudden, my mouth's getting muddled. I can't even remember the words. The place where he usually stays. The Fortress of Solitude. Oh my gosh, I said the Solace of Fortitude. I don't know why I said that. I don't know. I don't get it, but my mind just confused everything. The Fortress of Solitude, yeah. So he goes off to the north. He tells her he's going north. All right, so that denotes loss, which is interesting because Lois has just lost Clark Kent, and in this dream, Clark is now speaking about their connection. So he says, I take it that's a yes. And she's like, what? And then he says, the ring. And then we get a flash of Lois in BVS as she's about to drop the last of the soil upon the casket of Clark. And you can see the ring right there. Now, let me give you a little bit more history into that because I think it's worth the while for you to know. So if you haven't seen BVS, Martha Kent, who is Clark Kent's mother in BVS and in Man of Steel, she comes with this envelope to Lois Lane. As Lois Lane is lying in the home, everybody's grieving Clark. You know, you saw all the rows of cars in the beginning. Let me just flash back to that for a minute there. You saw all the cars at the Kent farm in the beginning, where they're actually having a quiet funeral for Clark. Okay, that's this scene right here. So Martha Kent comes in, and she leaves for Clark. She leaves from Clark. Clark wanted to surprise Lois. She leaves this envelope with Lois, and Lois opens up the envelope, takes out this nice little bag, kind of felt velvety kind of bag, and she opens it, and in it is a ring. And what's so very important, what Clark is actually hinting to her is she holds the ring, and then later, Zack Snyder is so subtle with these things and how he does his shots. I even missed it. She put the ring on her finger, and she basically accepted the engagement ring, the proposal to be married. And she basically commits herself to him even though he's dead, and she wears the ring on her finger as she buries him. It's very, very deep. It's very, very touching. And the continuity of that, which is very interesting and makes a segue of interest, which brings back to the theme of sunrise and spring and all of these things, is that when she drops the dirt on the casket and makes a sound and splatters, and she leaves, we see at the very final shot, the last few shots of the movie, we see the dirt rise. And it's signaled by Hans Zimmer's beautiful little sound. It's signaling to you something's about to happen that's just not normal. And then you see the dirt rise just for like a brief second, and then everything goes black. And then the music keeps on playing with that, which is just so awesome. And again, brilliant work by Zack Snyder. Brilliant filmmaking. I mean, you can ask for something better than that. Leaving you with some hope. You don't exactly know, and that's the whole point behind Superman, right? To leave you with hope, right? And so, brilliantly done. This trilogy is probably going to be one of the greatest trilogies of all time when all is said and done, even though it may not be appreciated in its time. Just beautiful. And that springs back into everything you saw in the dream sequence, which gives hope. It's all about hope. Superman's all about hope. And this whole sequence here is about hope. Now, in this sequence here, Superman was distressed. He was conflicted because he had to go on to fulfill his destiny. His mother knew this. His father knew this. And the discussion goes on with that. But Zack Snyder took this incident. He took this entire scene, flipped it a little bit, flipped the script on it a little bit to create hope. And you would feel very hopeful when you see Superman and you see Lois Lane and that relationship, and to hear Superman talk about, and that's a yes, right? And this is what's going on in Lois's head. We don't know if it's a vision or if it's a dream. She wakes from the dream to a world without Superman, and that's where the segue continues onwards. Things are not that great in the world, and it's kind of a world without hope, which you see on the newspaper. So I think there's just brilliant what Zack Snyder is doing with this movie. And I love what Joss Whedon is keeping committed to that. He's very committed to the tone and to that sort of core of the movie. And that's what makes this movie so cool. It's so bad. It's so awesome. All right. So I just decided to share that breakdown of trailer 1. I tried to do this before, guys, and man, they flagged me for using content. So I had to actually do this and narrate it and talk through it. Wasn't really the way I wanted to go, but there you go. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. Leave your comments in the comment section below. You guys have a great one.